Hi, and welcome to my YouTube channel. That feels like such a weird thing to say. I've been meaning to start this channel for genuinely so many years, and I keep putting it off because I got intimidated and I thought that it would be, it's scary, okay? But I'm finally doing it, and I figured what better way to start us off than with a bookshelf tour. Bookshelf tour is like my #1 most requested video on Book Talk, but I have way too many books for it to be like at all feasible for me to do a bookshelf tour on that platform. So YouTube it is, and that was the final kick that I needed to just start this channel. Before we get into it, I feel like I should just give you some like ground rules of how I organize my books and how I sort them. So I have 2 separate sets of bookshelves. You see the white ones behind me right now. These are all of the books that I have already read. They're organized by genre and height and just in whatever way I feel like looks the most aesthetically pleasing. And then over on a shelf that way that you can't see, but I'll show you in a minute, I have all of the books on my TBR, all the books that I have not yet read, and it's an embarrassingly large number of books. But we'll get to that in a minute. We're gonna start off with all of these books behind me that I have read because they're the prettiest and they're the ones that I am most excited to show off. My very first shelf is YA Contemporary, and these top 2 shelves on it are specifically hardcovers. I love how clean the lines are of having them all the same height, but I do have Heartbreakers and Fakers up there on top because I ran out of room, to be totally honest. This shelf is about 50% more recent reads, 50% books from middle school and early high school. If you zoom in right here, you can see a lot of Sarah Dessen because I was absolutely addicted to her writing when I was like 13, 14. The middle shelf here is honestly just more of the same, but in the middle there, I have a box from Literary Crate. I don't think they make these boxes anymore, which is kind of sad because I actually love displaying this box. I think it's so freaking cute. And then specifically those books on top of the box are some of my just like absolute favorite YA contemporaries, so I put them in a special place of honor. I also have Educated by Tara Westover in there because I didn't really know where else to fit it. I don't have a ton of nonfiction or memoirs, so it just sticks in here because it fits. And then the bottom 2 shelves are my odd size, my paperbacks, my just everything else YA contemporary that didn't look perfectly exactly the same height as the other ones, plus some of those shorter hardcovers as well, but they just like didn't fit up there because I had squished as much as I possibly could. This also has my middle grade down here, as well as my childhood Christian fiction collection. On the second bookshelf is where my YA contemporary bleeds into my adult romance, and I'm kind of proud of the way that I did this. So I've got my stack, my Casey West, my Sick Kids in Love. That is a special edition that I actually made myself. I edited it in Photoshop to have like a pink sunset ombre background because I thought it was pretty and it's my favorite book ever, and I thought it needed a special edition, so I made one. But then I have my Rachel and Solomon, and I bleed her YA into her new adult, into her adult, and that is the start of my adult romance section. You can see that I have the edges turned out on the Barnes & Noble edition of Past, Present, Future, as well as the Illumicrate editions of the X-Talk, Weather Girl, and Business or Pleasure. Next we have what is basically just an Allie Hazelwood and Emily Henry shelf because I am nothing if not basic, and they are my 2 absolute favorite romance authors of all time. I have so many editions of their books. My goal is to collect pretty much every single English edition of their books to exist. Starting off, I have 3 editions of Bride. I have the Owlcrate edition, the Afterlight edition, and then just the standard paperback. I have an Arc of Check and Mate, the Afterlight edition of Check and Mate, and then the regular Barnes & Noble edition. And then I have just the standard and Afterlight editions of all of Allie's other books with the special dust jackets Afterlight did that honestly I didn't like the first time, and I actually sold my dust jackets because I thought they were so ugly and I was mad about it. And then the more I thought about it, the more I regretted that. So when they did reprints, I snatched them up because I'm kind of obsessed with them now. So I don't know what that says about me. Maybe that I just get caught up in hype because I thought they were ugly, but then everybody else really liked them, and so I decided I liked them. I'm yapping for literally no reason. Anyway, then we get into my Emily Henry. I have the standard US and UK editions of Beach Read and People We Meet on Vacation, and then I have the Afterlight editions of all of her books and the hardcover of Happy Place. I don't have any standard editions of Funny Story because I'm honestly just waiting for the paperback to come out. I still really need to get the paperback of Happy Place. I don't like the hardcovers. I'm not going to collect her books in hardcovers. And I'm just mad that they exist in hardcover because I am a paperback girly when it comes to romance. Every other way, I'm a hardcover girly, and special editions, I'm a hardcover girly, but standard editions, no. Paperback, all the way. This shelf is a mixture of indie authors gone trad and just everything that Berkeley Romance has ever sent me and also some that I bought myself because I really, honestly, Berkeley Romance is some of my favorite, and I think I own the most romance books by them because they just, they hit every single time. The star of the show of this shelf, though, is obviously the Afterlight editions of Bergman Brothers series. Look at those edges, the way they make the A-frame. I could stare at them all day. I love them so much. This next shelf here is my historical romance shelf. I don't have a ton of historical romance. I'm trying to get more into it, but I really struggle with it a lot of the time. When it hits, it hits. And Bridgerton, okay, to be honest, Bridgerton doesn't really hit as the books, but I'm completely obsessed with the show, and so I keep collecting the books anyway. I have the second half of the Once Upon a Book Club books. I have the Illumicrate Bridgerton books, which are just absolutely gorgeous. I have some of the paperbacks, a couple of which are signed because Julia Quinn actually lives in the same city as me, and so I can get her books signed whenever I want, which is so freaking nice. I have a few mass market paperbacks and then a couple of Elizabeth Everett books, and I love Elizabeth Everett. If you haven't read her books, you absolutely need to. It is a must read. Then we're back to my typical contemporary romance. I don't usually take genre breaks in the middle of a genre, but I had to make sure that those Bridgerton books were on display on a nice shelf that's very easily visible because they are gorgeous and I'm obsessed with them and they're kind of like my pride and joy. So genre break it was, but back to my contemporary romance. These are some more of my favorites. Honestly, pretty much every single book on my shelf is one that I absolutely loved. If I give a book under 4 stars, it is getting yanked, it is getting unhauled, it's going up on my Pango, whatever. So these are all 4-star and above. These are mostly my HarperCollins titles with a little bit of Hachette mixed in there and like 2 Berkeley romance books because I just have a lot of those. Oh, there's a little bit more than 2 Berkeleys in there, but mostly it's HarperCollins and Hachette. If you hadn't noticed, I sort most of my adult romances by publisher. I don't do that anywhere else. I don't really know why I did it here. I think it's because they're just all the same height when they're from the same publisher, except for Forever. Forever makes them all different heights all the time, and it's really, really annoying. Forever, please stop doing that. And then finally, the end of my adult romance, which bleeds right into my historical fiction. Why are those 2 next to each other? Honestly, that's just because where they fit best. All of the Backwards books are St. Martin's Press. I just never turned them around after the strike ended, or the boycott, I'm sorry. You can see which one is red, white, and royal blue, though, because of the red, blue, and pink tabs. Then we have the rest of my historical fiction collection, which bleeds into my mystery and thriller collection. That's another transition that I'm just really proud of because I stuck the Stalking Jack the Ripper series in between historical and mystery because it is both historical and mystery. Face out in my historical section, I have One for All by Lily Lineoff, one of my absolute favorites. It needed to be on display. The UK edition, which is the face out one, is gorgeous. The foiling doesn't really show up on camera, but I promise it is stunning in person. I think the second shelf of mystery is all of my absolute favorites. You've got Maureen Johnson, Karen M. McManus, and of course, Holly Black. I have my entire Good Girls Guide to Murder collection, which is the standard US hardcovers, some of the UK paperbacks, and the Fairy Loot editions. Absolutely love them. I also have the UK special edition, collector's edition. Then we have my final mystery and thriller books, including my entire collection of Ellie Carter books. If you were a Gallagher Girls girly in middle school, did you know she has adult romances now that are very similar feelings? They are so good. I highly recommend them. Those were over in my adult romance section. This is just my middle school collection of her YA mysteries and thrillers, which are also very good. And if you haven't read them, you should. You really missed out when you were in middle school. I have a little mug with all these different cats on it that my grandma gave me, marking off my mysteries from my sci-fi. These are also a bunch of books that are mostly from middle school because I was really into the YA dystopian craze back when it was massive. But I have some true sci-fi in there as well, and a giant collection of Marissa Meyer books, which actually I did not read in middle school. I read that when they were popular on Book Talk, but she's a local author, and so I got really into them because I've met her a few times and she is the kindest person ever. And then the end of my sci-fi and dystopian section, and it ends on Shatter Me. There's a new Shatter Me book coming out, and I honestly haven't decided if I'm going to read it yet. I don't think the original series was for me. I got caught up in the hype when it was like big on Book Talk, but like the more I think about it, the more I'm like, what even was that? Was any of it good? I honestly don't think so. So am I going to continue? Maybe, probably, because people are talking about it, but I might unhaul my books because let me know what you think I should do. The bottom shelf of my third set of bookcases is the start of my fantasy. The vast majority of my fantasy books are YA. It's not the most of what I read anymore, but I've been collecting books since I was 12 years old, and so obviously that is a lot more time collecting YA than adult, which I only just started reading the last couple of years, so all of those I think are YA. The top shelf of my next bookcase is my Chloe Gong collection. I have an absurd number of Foul Lady Fortune books. I think it's like 6 or 7. But it was my favorite read in 2022. Chloe Gong is mostly known for her Violent Delight series, which is absolutely amazing, don't get me wrong, but Foul Lady Fortune is so much better, and you absolutely need to read it. I'm so serious. Please, I'm begging you. I also have my Bridget Kemmerer arcs on the shelf because I needed something to fill the space, and those are also very special and need to be on a special display shelf. Below that is the start of my Percy Jackson shrine, which spans not 1, not 2, but 3 entire shelves because I have, I think, 54 copies of Rick Riordan's books because he is my favorite author, and he has been since I was like 10 years old. I really don't have time in this video to go through every single one, but if you're interested, I can definitely do a Rick Riordan bookshelf tour where I talk about every single edition of his books that I own and all of the ones that I really want to get my hands on but haven't gotten a chance to yet. The dust jackets turned out are the 1st and 5th books in the series with the Nerdy Ink dust jackets, which are absolutely incredibly gorgeous. I'm so completely obsessed with them. I also have the Heroes of Olympus books, which are not going to be shown, the Nerdy Ink editions, on this tour because they arrived after I filmed this and I decided I didn't really want to refilm. But I also have on this shelf my original paperback editions that you can't really see because of the glare, but they are so beat up. They're the editions that I read every time I reread it, and I reread it just about every year for the last 10 years, so you can imagine what they look like. And then we have shelves 2 and 3 of my Riordan collection with the Illumicrate editions of the Percy Jackson series. Illumicrate and their edges absolutely never miss. They have made every single one of my favorite sets of books is an Illumicrate set, and that is just the absolute truth. And these Percy Jackson sets are so high up there simply because of those edges. The rest of it, gorgeous too, but those edges, the way they make up Camp Half-Blood, I'm so completely in love with them. Then I have my Heroes of Olympus books, which this shows them in the regular jacket editions, but in real life, they have the nerdy ink jackets. You can look those up online. They're so pretty. Then my Trials of Apollo collection, and a couple of those books are signed. The Sun and the Star is also signed. A couple of the little short story collections. I have the regular edition of Daughter of the Deep. I also have a Finnish edition because my father actually went to Finland on a business trip, and he surprised me by bringing home a Finnish edition of a Rick Riordan book for my birthday, which is just honestly the sweetest thing. He's such a thoughtful guy. I love him so much. I have my Magnus Chase books, and then I have 2 sets of the Kane Chronicles because aside from Heroes of Olympus and Percy Jackson, those are my favorite of the spin-off series. And then the last 2 shelves are just some more YA fantasy. We've got all of those Turn Back or Again St. Martin's Press books. Those are actually all copies of This Gracious Grace and the sequel that I love so much. I wish I could show you the spines so that you could see them, but the Illumicrate editions are the ones with the sprayed edges. They're gorgeous. Then my Grishaverse collection, including the Owlcrate Shadow and Bone editions. Again, some of the most gorgeous sprayed edges I've ever seen. Say hi to Kiva. She refused to get out of the way, so I just figured I'd let you say hi to her. She's so annoying, but very, very cute. This next shelf is all of my sprayed edge special editions. They're all so cute. These are the shorter hardcover versions on this shelf right here. And then you get into my taller ones. These are all stenciled edges, not just sprayed edges. They're mostly from Illumicrate and Fairy Loot, but there are a couple of Owlcrate editions in here, and they are in rainbow order because I think it's cute and vibey. And then the next shelf of special editions, some of my favorites on this shelf include the Fairy Loot Honey Witch, which is obviously the one with the honeycomb, and then the Owlcrate Ruthless Vows, which is the bluish periwinkle almost one with the violin. And then this is the last of the rainbow. You get into black, and then on the shelves below, you get into kind of just a mishmash of whatever fits wherever. It is not nearly as aesthetically pleasing organizationally, that is. The books themselves still absolutely gorgeous. And then finally the bottom shelf, which you honestly can't really see because the dog is in the way. So sorry about that, but they're still pretty. And then a few Afterlight editions are the shorter ones right there. And then finally, the last set of shelves that I have actually read all of these books. We've got just the rest of my fantasy collection up here. These are again some of my favorites. That is the Owlcrate edition of Bloodmarked that is on display right there. You've got my other Bloodmarked books. The Mary E. Pearson, I loved her in middle school, and I'm so excited for her adult debut that just came out. I haven't read it yet. I'm going to so soon. Stephanie Garber, etc., etc. Below that, you've got my Fairy Crate editions of An Ember in the Ashes quartet, and then the Barnes & Noble editions of The Cruel Prince. And then these aren't special editions, but I do have to shout out Little Thieves and Painted Devils because they are some of my favorite underrated books, and you need to read them, please. I am not the happiest with Rebecca Yarros and the choices that she has made publicly on the internet. However, it is a book that is very important to me personally, so I do have a collection of it. I try not to talk about it or show it on videos, but if I'm showing you my collection, it's in there. I'm going to skim over that though quickly and say I have a big collection of Trisha Levenstoy books. She's another one that I absolutely loved in middle school, and it's just I've carried her books with me ever since and continued reading and loved everything she's put out. I love that her books are finally getting the love they deserve in these gorgeous new editions with the sprayed edges. I also have my Bridget Kemmerer collection right here, another one that I absolutely adore. A little bit of Carrie Maniscalco. Good books, good books. And then the very bottom-most shelves on here are honestly mostly some more middle school favorites. You've got Cassie Clare, a middle school classic for everyone involved in the entire book reading industry, I'm sure. I've got my Rochelle Mead books. Kiva's in the side this time. She moved, but she had to come back and get in the way again, of course. Rochelle Mead, Vampire Academy, was completely hooked on this in middle school. I read them way too many times. I don't even want to talk about it. The Beautiful Creatures series was another one in middle school that was my entire personality. Middle school classics. That brings us to the end of all of the books that I have already read. It is time to check out my TBR shelves, which actually is something that I don't show on here very often because it's genuinely embarrassing how many books are on them. But you're not allowed to judge me. That is the rule of this video, okay? Pinky promise, no judgments. Because these ones aren't organized quite as pretty, I'm just going to go through them pretty quickly. It starts off with YA contemporary, bleeds into contemporary adult romance, then into historical romance, and then fantasy. Cassandra Clare again. I have so many of her books. Some more V.E. Schwab, some Samantha Shannon books, blah, blah, blah. And that brings us to the end of my physical TBR. Say hi to my Laya plushie. These are just some boxes because I have a lot of extra space on the shelf. It used to be overflowing. I'm really proud of myself for getting it as low as it is. I call this set of shelves my shelves of shame. It starts with my art collection, which there's no shame in those. I actually am really proud of them. I'm really excited to read all of those. My classics, which are a shame because I just think classics are boring. My Warrior Cats collection, which, yeah, shame. Harry Potter is pretty obvious. There's some more classics there. And then this is just some more like storage space. And so there it is, my bookshelf tour. That is every single book that I own, all of the ways that I displayed them, and all of the information that you guys have been asking for ages. I hope that it did not disappoint. I am honestly very, very proud of my book collection. I've spent absolutely years curating and collecting and figuring out how to display them, and I love it so much. It is genuinely one of my greatest sources of joy, which is maybe a little bit embarrassing, but when I am like feeling down, I literally come in here and just like stare at my bookshelves, and it just gives me a shot of dopamine, okay? I feel like there's nothing better than a book collection. There's nothing better than a library, and I stand by that.